Today we're going to talk about identifying the property being shown when solving an equation. This is SOL 8.15c. Now how these problems are going to look is you're going to be given an equation that's going to be solved out, and you have to identify the property that's being shown between the steps. The equation is always going to be the first line, and that's always going to be referred to as given. So this equation is 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 5 minus 3x equals negative 6. So what the first thing you want to do is figure out what's different between step 1, the given equation, and step 2. So if you notice, minus 3x equals negative 6 equals negative 6. Those are the same. So the thing that's changed is 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 5 became 6x plus 15. We got to ask yourself how we got there. So what we did is we did 3 times 2x and 3 times positive 5. So when we take an outside number that's outside of the parentheses and we multiply it to the two things inside, we call that the distributive property. So on this line, we're going to write the distributive property. Alright, so let's go to the next thing. So our next line, we have 6x plus 15 minus 3x equals negative 6, and 6x minus 3x plus 15 equals negative 6. Now the negative 6 is the same, the 6x is the same, so what changed over here is our plus 15 minus 3x and our minus 3x plus 15 switch spots. So what property says that we can just change the order of things? And we know the thing that can change order is the commutative property. Now we have the commutative property of addition, we have the commutative property of multiplication. Now since we were adding, we're going to say the commutative property of addition. And don't worry that it had a minus here, because remember, you can always add a negative, and that's still the same thing as subtracting. So it's always going to be of addition. You'll never have an of subtraction. On this next line, they did 6x minus 3x plus 15 equals negative 6, and they have 3x plus 15 equals negative 6. So what changed here is 6x minus 3x just became 3x. Later on in algebra, you'll learn that this is called the closure property, or combining like terms. Whenever they give you a property already on the line, that's just something that you're going to learn later. Over here you'll notice that what changed on both sides was they did minus 15 and minus 15 to both sides. And we're going to call that the subtraction property of equality. And over here we times by 1/3, times by 1/3. And we call that the multiplication property of equality. Now, on this side, we times 1/3 to both things. So each thing was times by 1/3. And we should know that we can make anything a fraction by putting it over 1. So this has a 3 over 1x times a 1 over 3. So we know that this fraction is flipped over. We call that its reciprocal. And whenever we multiply by the reciprocal of something, which gives us a product of 1, we know that that is the inverse property, and since we were multiplying, of multiplication. So this is going to be the inverse property of multiplication. That's what happened. Alright, down here, negative 7 is the same, x is the same, so the only thing that changed is it got rid of this 1. So since that x stayed the same, we know that that's the identity property, because anytime you do something to a problem and it stays exactly the same, you know it's the identity. And since we were multiplying, we call it the identity property of multiplication. So just to sum all this up, remember all you have to do is identify the two things that are different in each step and figure out which property says that you're able to do that.